welcome everybody to our weekly Interfaith Zoom meeting. And we've been going for about 5 years. This is number 267. And a little later, I'll introduce our presenter for tonight, Veronica Anderson, who will talk about spiritual parenting. Meanwhile, just to let you know how we do things, we'll acknowledge the Indigenous people and the land. We'll have a short program of music and readings, and then I'll introduce the speaker. Please mute your microphone unless you're speaking. And just to remember that our primary purpose is that we're here to learn and to learn from each other, but to learn from the presenter. We're not here to convince anyone of anything or change anyone else, but we're each welcome to change ourselves if we want to, or our ideas. And I'd like to ask Ahmed if he could acknowledge the Indigenous people.
Can you bring the... Yep. Okay. As you may know, the Universal House of Justice is the world body of the Baha'i faith, and time to time they send messages to everyone in the world, and we have selected this message, which is important, and it says there is a widespread acknowledgement that the present-day structures of society are ill-prepared to address the needs of humanity in its current travails. Much that was widely assumed to be certain and unshakable is being questioned, and the resulting phenomenon is producing a longing for a unifying vision. The chorus of voices raised in support of oneness, equality, and justice shows how many share these aspirations for their societies. This was the message of Res 1 2023. And as you can see, and we can see in the world that a lot of people are after oneness of humanity, equality, and justice in the world that is lacking. At the same time, many of the original people of the world in different places have been harshly treated. In Australia is the same. So we like to acknowledge them. We acknowledge and pay respect to the past, present, and future traditional custodians and elders of this nation we call Australia, and the continuation of cultural, spiritual, and educational practices of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. We acknowledge Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander tribes were the first sovereign nations of Australian continent. The Gadigal of the Eora Nation are the traditional custodians of this place we now call Sydney. And Wangal people are traditional owners of Bearwood, where Siva and Vasanta used to live, and Vasanta, of course, living now. And I live in Ku-ring-gai, the Ku-ring-gai Nation's land. And I'm not sure about the calling, like you have to tell me which area you live and which country, traditional country you live in. So we welcome everyone and acknowledge and honor the indigenous people of this land.
Thank you, Ahmed. Yeah, Jung and I are on Gadigal and Bidjigal land, so we acknowledge them as well.
Okay.
So we haven't had this song before in our program, and I chose it because Seals and Crofts, lovely band who won a lot of awards in the 70s. They've both passed away. Dash Crofts passed away last week. And this is a song on a spiritual theme about not allowing yourself to get caught up in the things of the world and to be spiritually lost.
in endless riddles. The truth is bent to fit your teeth. Your ears hear only necessary words and thoughts that make you breathe. From out of the depths of want you wander, searching for a familiar sound of some unsuspecting sorrow on his way to not be found. Like a rebel gone unnoticed till the cloth begins to tear. One small grain of salt in water at first is not so hard to bear. Out of an hour or day you're born to play your harp and wear your gown, hiding, waiting for the right one on his way to not be found. Not be found. Should our paths cross each other, I'll keep my eyes fixed on the ground. I'll keep right on walking past you rather than to not be found. Not be found. Not be found. You fill one's pipe with dreams of amber. To taste the smoke is ecstasy. But the one who claims the clouds won't let you know serenity. Lips that part with sweet and danger, moist with ill and evil sound, await their chance to take the stranger to the land of not be found. Not be found. Not be found.
Okay. With Indra's well-beloved hosts, the blameless, hastening to heaven, the sacrificer cries aloud. Excuse me. Come from this place, O wanderer, or downward, from the light of heaven. Our songs of praise all yearn for these Hindu writings.
Through how many ways and means of righteousness can man reach heaven? The Spirit of wisdom replied, through various ways, like the first is charity, second, truth, third, gratitude or gratefulness, fourth, contentment, fifth, goodness towards the victorious, and friendliness towards all. Zoroastrian writings.
If I go unique, that's it.
It stopped showing it to me. Can I just start from the beginning again?
Sure, sure.
The one who is grateful and kind, the friend who has firm devotion, respectfully does his duty, therefore he is called a good person. Buddhist writings.
I will extol thee, O Lord, for thou hast raised me up, and hast not suffered mine enemies to rejoice over me. O Lord my God, I cried unto thee, and thou didst heal me. O Lord, thou broughtest up my soul from the nether world. Thou didst keep me alive, that I should not go down to the pit. Sing praise unto the Lord, O ye his godly ones, and give thanks to his holy name, for his anger is but for a moment, his favor is for a lifetime. Jewish writing.
Testify, are you able to read this one?
Did you call me?
No, testify.
Sorry.
That's okay, I'll read it. Then Jesus began to denounce the towns in which most of his miracles had been performed, because they did not repent. At that time, Jesus said, I praise you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, because you have hidden these things from the wise and learned and revealed them to little children. Yes, Father, for this is what you are pleased to do. Christian writings.
And hold fast altogether by the rope which Allah stretches out for you, and be not divided amongst yourselves. And remember with gratitude Allah's favor upon you. For ye were enemies, and he joined your hearts in love, so that by his grace ye became brethren. And ye were on the brink of the pit of fire, and he saved you from it. Thus does Allah make his signs clear to you, that ye may be guided. Islamic writings.
Consider what a blessing and calamities when endured in the path of God. Were ye to consider carefully, you would surely perceive that adversity in the path of one true God is abounding. Inasmuch as the most great name, the ancient beauty, may my life be a sacrifice for his loved ones, did himself endure a myriad afflictions. Now he hath granted that we, his lovely servants, may become his partners and associates in these trials and tribulations, each according to our capacity. Were one to judge with fairness, this suffering is worthy of gratitude, and these afflictions are not but manifold bestowals. Upon you be greetings and praise. Baha'i writings.
Strive that your actions day by day may be beautiful prayers.
Strive that your actions day by day may be beautiful prayers. Turn towards God and seek always to do that which is right and noble, enrich the poor, raise the fallen, comfort the sorrowful, bring healing to the sick, reassure the fearful, rescue the oppressed, bring hope to the hopeless, shelter the destitute. Strive that your actions day by day may be beautiful prayers. Turn towards God and seek always to do that which is right and noble. Enrich the poor, raise the fallen, comfort the sorrowful, bring healing to the sick, reassure the fearful, rescue the oppressed, bring hope to the hopeless, shelter the destitute. Strive that your actions day by day may be beautiful prayers. Turn towards God and seek always to do that which is right and noble. Enrich the poor, raise the fallen, comfort the sorrowful, bring healing to the sick, reassure the fearful, rescue the oppressed, bring hope to the hopeless, shelter the destitute. Strive that your actions day by day may be beautiful prayers. Turn towards God and seek always to do that which is right and noble. Enrich the poor, raise the fallen, comfort the sorrowful, bring healing to the sick, reassure the fearful, rescue the oppressed, bring hope to the hopeless, shelter the destitute.
Thank you very much to the readers, and welcome to everybody from wherever you are. And now my great pleasure to introduce Veronica Anderson. Veronica was previously a registered veterinarian working for the federal government and the University of Western Australia in roles associated with welfare of animals used for research and education. Now retired, her passion is the welfare of children and the importance of the role of parents in nurturing their holistic development in order to enable them to independently navigate the opportunities and challenges of adult life and to contribute to the welfare and betterment of society. She also volunteers with the Baha'i Faith in roles promoting the welfare and safety of children in Baha'i-endorsed activities. And Veronica will be talking about spiritual parenting. Over to you, Veronica.
Thank you so much, Colin, for inviting me. I'm very excited about this topic, very, very passionate. But before we start, I just want to acknowledge that Farah Evans, who is here with us tonight, is the developer of this course. So everything I say tonight is thank you to her for actually coming up with this course. I first encountered the spiritual parenting course that we're going to talk about this evening about 10 years ago. And when I first heard about it, my children had already grown up, left home. And at that time, I was so excited to come across this course, but also slightly disappointed because my children were no more at home to benefit from all the strategies that this course brought. But I think the thing is, I continue to be excited because I feel as though when we look at the world today and basically the decline of spiritual qualities, being manifest in daily interactions, when we hear about the news. The world seems to be less and less displaying these spiritual qualities. And it is these very spiritual qualities that the Course is aiming to draw out of our children. So also when we think about, you can have laws that will encourage people to behave well, but I guess if we think about it, laws can only go so far. What we really need is for people themselves to have a kind of a moral sort of rectitude about them, to want to do the right thing rather than have to be told and then punished for doing the wrong things. So yeah, so that's a bit of background. So if you're happy, I will share my screen and we'll get right into it. Okay, I'm hoping you can all see this screen here. I can see all of you, so I'm just trying to move you guys out of the way. Okay. Can you see the screen? Is that, and the size is good? Great. Okay, so to start, basically, the spiritual parenting course is about supporting our children to develop their inherent spiritual qualities. And one of the questions that we often get when we talk about spiritual parents, and some of the resistance when the word spiritual is used, especially in our very secular society, which seems to shy away from any discussion about spirituality or religion particularly, we start by saying what we mean, defining what we mean by spirituality. So for the purposes of this course, spirituality means the meaning and purpose of our lives, the mastery of our character, and connecting with the mystery of the sacred. So this mystery does not necessarily have to be God. It can be, for many people, it's a higher self, or it can be with nature. It is very much up to people, as far as this course is concerned, to connect with whatever they believe mystery is to them. Okay, so the other thing that we talk about is the fact that there's a dual component to human nature. So human nature is one. It isn't a dual nature. I know that often we talk about human nature as being a dual nature, but in fact, human nature is just one. It has two aspects to it. It has a materialistic or worldly aspect, and that's where our ego and all those things come in. And then there is a spiritual aspect to the human nature. And in that spiritual aspect, we have our latent virtues. That's where we have this desire, which other animals basically, not other animals, but animals don't have. So we feel this need for meaning and purpose in our life. We have willpower and we have the ability to choose. So unlike lower order organisms like animals, who are often all they have is their innate sense of the word fails me at the moment, but there's an innate drive to do things, whereas we have, as humans, have the ability to choose. Okay, so the spiritual parenting course, it recognizes our children as spiritual beings. It involves honoring their spirit and helping them on a journey of self-discovery. It guides them to develop their inner strength and their self-awareness to make moral choices. And hopefully the course provides practical tools to deal with day-to-day issues, such as what to do when a 5-year-old refuses to go to bed, or when a teenager comes home late and breaks his curfew. So the other thing is, please interrupt me if you have any questions. It's probably easier to talk about them as we're going through them. Plus, I don't really want to hear myself talking for 40 minutes. Okay, so as with everything, when we talk about, what do we want to do? So we basically start by asking participants, what is it you want to get out of this course? And it usually centers around what they would like to see when their child is 21 and they have to, they have a big party at 21 and people usually get up, and parents often will get up and say lovely things about their child, the same as they do when they get married. So when we're parenting, we usually need to have a flight plan, a destination in mind. We can, of course, just parent day to day, willy-nilly, and it's a day-by-day survival. And then all of a sudden, we find our child is 18 years of age, but we've really not had any vision. But it is better to have a vision. So with this course, we are hoping that what we would like at the end of our child's childhood years is to see an adult that has a strong moral compass, that has a strong, secure sense of self-worth, that has an independent will, isn't going to be led by everybody around him or her, has a wise and knowledgeable mind, is resilient, and is able to face and overcome the challenges of life, as well as having an open heart that is ready to recognize the needs of others and to serve humanity or his community, in big or small ways. Okay. And so when we talked about us being spiritual persons, obviously we have our kind of materialistic human physical nature, but then our spiritual nature is comprised of virtues, which we call gems of the human spirit. The other spiritual qualities we have obviously are a mind and intellect, and very importantly, we have free will. So I don't know, Fari, are you happy to read maybe both these quotes, which you're very familiar with? You're on mute. You're on mute. Still muted. Sorry, Fari, can you hear me? Because you're still on mute. Oh, okay. Would you like me to ask someone else? Okay. How about Tefai? Are you happy to read?
Spiritual qualities.
Thank you.
Spiritual qualities. Virtues, gems of the human spirit, mind and intellect, free will. Regard man as mind rich in gems of inestimable value. Education can alone cause it to reveal its treasure, enable mankind to benefit therefrom. Baha'i writings. Shall I continue?
Please.
The purpose of spiritual education to cause the virtues to become manifest, visible in all human actions. By writings.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry. Just picked up
Thank you.
typo in there as well. Thank you. Okay, so basically the purpose of spiritual education is to try and bring forth these virtues from our children. So I'll just go back to that. So normally when we talk about education, we talk about, going to school, and it's more of a putting things into the child, giving them information. Whereas for us, for spiritual education, it's more about drawing stuff out of the child, because in potential, they have all these qualities. The job of a parent is to mine these qualities, and then to help the child to polish them so that they're obvious both for the child and for others to see. Okay, so I should maybe talk about the qualities first. So these are a small list of the virtues, but as you can see, I'm actually going to read them because there's so many of them. There's assertiveness, kindness, care, love, sacrifice, serenity, strength, simplicity, gentleness, generosity, loyalty, cleanliness, compassion, mercy, helpfulness, honesty, thoughtfulness, understanding, wonder, wisdom, humility, honor, moderation, confidence, consideration, obedience, idealism, joyfulness, grace, fortitude, optimism, dignity, self-discipline, justice, orderliness, courage, courtesy, patience, service, steadfastness, integrity, independence, hope, initiative, thankfulness, tact, peacefulness, creativity, detachment, prayerfulness, tolerance, trust, beauty, charity, cheerfulness, accountability, truthfulness, trustworthiness, purposefulness, determination, enthusiasm, reliability, unity, zeal, mindfulness, empathy, compassion, endurance, commitment, forbearance, respect, excellence, flexibility, responsibility, contentment, perseverance, appreciation, certitude, and actually discernment was the one that's falling off the page. Okay, the reason for reading them is because you can see that this is supposedly just a small section of the virtues that all of us, every human being that's born has all of these virtues in potential. It's remarkable. I think the first time I was confronted with the fact that we had all these virtues, I was absolutely staggered, because when you read them, you don't realize how all these things actually exist in you already. And it's just a matter of actually being able to pull them out when we need them and to use them. So I think even if we enable children to understand the wealth of like these superpowers basically that they have inside them, if they even understand the fraction of the number of virtues that they have, it goes towards building their self-worth. They know that they are worthy of respect and they're worthy of consideration, they're worthy of love, because all these beautiful qualities exist in them. So often people or children think, I'm useless, I'm not good at anything, I'm not worthy for anything. That is just so ridiculous. If a parent can get across this message that all these gems reside in them, I kind of feel as though that is your self-worth. It is something to make you feel, look, I'm strong and I can walk the face of this planet or any planet because I am worthy. God has created me with all these beautiful qualities. What more do I need other than to have these qualities shine out? um, you know, and then when you think that at the end of days, when we're put to rest, it is these qualities that people talk about when they come to eulogize us. So it is these qualities that parents are trying to help to draw out of their children and to show them that they have all these beautiful qualities. Okay, so how do we do that? Session one of the course is all about the power of language. Colin, are you happy to read this quote? Sorry.
Yeah. The power of language. Every word is endowed with spirit. One word is like unto springtime, causing the tender saplings of the rose garden of knowledge to become verdant and flourishing, while another word is even as deadly poison. It behoveth a prudent man of wisdom to speak with utmost leniency and forbearance, so that the sweetness of his words may induce everyone to attain that which will befitteth man's station.
Thank you. Okay, so as part of session one, what we're trying to do is to encourage positive behavior. Sorry, did I go through session one? Yeah, I did. Okay, sorry. So as part of session one, we're trying to encourage positive behavior. And the way we do that is by using the language of those virtues. So the trick is, of course, that parents have to remember all those virtues and try to identify those virtues when their child displays one of those virtues in his behavior. When I first encountered this course, I was dumbstruck because I couldn't identify and I didn't know the names for all those virtues. So I used to say things to my children like, oh, that's a great job you did, or lovely, or that's so wonderful, all of which is not very helpful because it doesn't actually identify a virtue word. It would be much easier if we had been able to use a word. Also because those words are powerful. They have a spirit endowed with them. They are a divine quality. So language has the power to break a heart or empower a dream, as in that quote before. But positive language, so a virtue word, will encourage positive behavior. It will build the child's self-awareness, and it will encourage self-worth. If the language is positive and encouraging, then usually that kind of behavior will follow. So if you say, that was such a helpful thing you did, or how about, would you like to be helpful and set the table? What the child will do then is he will set the table, but in his mind he will think, oh yes, I'm being helpful. I'm setting the table for mum. So that's the way we would use that language. And then teachable moments, we use the word teachable moments, and teachable moments are opportunities to acknowledge, guide, and correct. So last week, for those that did attend last week, Yuet May talked about the virtue. So a lot of the strategies in this course are virtue strategies. There's more to this course than the virtue strategies, but you'll see the similarities if you attended last week's course. Right. And then we've talked about those virtues. We've talked about the virtues. Okay, so we talked about teachable moments. So how do we use the power? How do we use those virtue words? We use them when we see a teachable moment. A teachable moment is a moment when we notice that our child has done something that we can acknowledge. So if we see them some good behavior, we catch them and say, thank you for doing this, or I see that you've done this. So for example, a teachable moment would be if a child was speaking, at the assembly, which now more and more young children start to do. Instead of saying something like, great job at assembly today, that was great, you can say, it took a lot of courage the way you spoke at the school assembly. Because, of course, all of us know any form of public speaking at any time is daunting. Even to a person who does it all the time, you always have a bit of anxiety. So for a child, it does take courage to do that. But having done that, we've identified to that child, you have courage. That is one of the virtues you have. So, I mean, it would be just so much nicer to have my mum say to me, well, that was really courageous what you did, rather than say, great job, which is lovely, but it's not quite as guiding. Or another way would be, that was very considerate the way to share your lunch with the friend who forgot to bring his. Again, we're identifying a virtue of consideration. So that's when we catch them out doing good things. But if, for example, they're doing something that needs a bit of correction and a bit of guidance, we could say, please use consideration and turn down the music. Alternatively, in a secular way, we could say, please get rid of that noise, or less noise, please. All the other ways that we could say that. But by saying, please use consideration, we're giving them indications of what we would like them to do, but we're also giving them a virtue word. Or we could say, please you need to use your patience while you're waiting for dinner. Instead of stop whining, dinner will be ready soon. If you can hear the two different ways of saying it, one gives a bit more guidance as to what's required, and the other is really not that helpful. Okay. So that was sort of session one. We do a lot more, obviously, in that we do some exercise, we do some role playing, we talk about ways in which incidences that have come up in their home life where they could have maybe used something different, or, and then of course people go home and do some practice on using those. Then session two, we start to talk about boundary settings and what boundaries are. So we talk about boundaries as a blend of love and discipline, and how boundaries based on love and respect build unity within a family, how boundaries also create a sense, a climate of peace and safety within a family. And at the same time, the other item that we cover is consultation. So I think last week, you at May also talked a bit about consultation and about boundaries. Oh, no, actually, I don't think she talked about consultation so much, but she talked about boundaries. But so one of the ways that we can set boundaries is by using family consultation, because consultation is a wonderful tool to introduce to children. It sets them on a lifelong path of actually using this beautiful tool to enhance not just family life, but when they go into the workplace, when they have relationship issues, all sorts of things. So we introduce the concept and we talk about consultation, and then we also talk about the concept of a pause button. Any queries before we move on? Nope. I hope I'm not overwhelming you or boring you. Okay, so next, so when we're talking about boundaries, we try to establish clear and realistic boundaries because children crave boundaries, but they need boundaries that are clear, consistent, and fair. And then in their early years also, they want predictability. So establishing routines, rituals, and rules gives children a sense of security. When we are setting boundaries, we try to be moderate, positive, give educative consequences, making sure the child understands why he has been given why he's been given that consequence. Also, we work really hard at being consistent. When we have a boundary, if we've got to give a consequence, we want to make sure that we give a boundary that we can consistently enforce. We also need to communicate those boundaries very clearly, and we need to make boundaries non-negotiable. Gosh, my spelling in this has been terrible. Okay, we need to make the boundaries non-negotiable, thinking through carefully boundaries before we set them, because what we don't want to do is to make a boundary and then have to backtrack on it. Okay, so the next slide might make things a little bit clearer. So we have boundaries and then we have ground rules in a family. So when we're setting boundaries, we would have boundaries. Okay, so I think let's choose respect. I'll start with respect. So a boundary is when you talk about a virtue that you want to have always held front and center within the family. So the boundary of respect. But then you could have a ground rule or a family rule, if you want to call it that, because during family consultations, we can set family rules. So a family rule would be, we always speak calmly, even when we're angry. So that way we know what the virtue is that we're looking for, and this is the way we action it. So it's about having a virtue and then having a rule that is related to that virtue. I'm not sure if that's clear. Does anybody want to raise anything when we're talking here? Okay. So usually when we have ground rules, we try to keep them to a very small minimum. So for children, we'd have something like responsibility. Responsibility is a virtue we want our children to learn and to practice and to get used to always manifesting. So we would say one of the rules is that as children, you have to do your homework diligently each day. So that is a rule. And you would come up with a consequence during a family consultation with different children as to what would be the consequence of them not doing that homework every day. I mean, they'd have a consequence at school, obviously, but I think at the end of the day, as a parent, I would say, so have you guys all done your homework? And then truthfully and honesty would be one of our other ground rules. So hopefully they will all say, yes, And if they say no, they'll have to explain why they haven't been able to do that. And then we would talk about that a bit more. So that is ground rules and boundaries. So we talk a lot more in depth about that in our sessions. And then just going on to family consultation. So the thing about consultation, it is a tool. It is a tool that enables each member to have a say and to be heard. So when we have well-conducted family consultations, and of course consultations, this is another time when, again, we're bringing in the virtues, because when you have a consultation, it's our form of consultation obviously is different to, sometimes in the outside world, when we go to a consultation, it's a whole lot of people bringing their own little agendas, and basically they want to push through their agenda. So what we are trying to do here with our spiritual parenting course is to teach children that consultation, it's an art, but it is based on virtues of purity of motive. So you don't have hidden agendas. You're upfront with what it is that what you want to say. Truthfulness is one of the virtues that we also need to encourage our children to manifest when they're consulting. And then detachment from their own opinions. So again, this is teaching children how to consult, and it's a tool that they will carry on throughout their adult life. So when we consult, whether we're in a family or whether we're doing it in the workplace, we need to learn to be detached from our own opinions. We need to say, hey, this is what I think, but if you come up with a better idea, then we're going to go with your idea. I'm not going to stick to my idea because it's my idea. It's not about winners and losers. It's about how can we collectively win. We need to encourage them to see that courtesy and respect for others and their opinion and for others' opinions is paramount when we're consulting. And we also need to show respect for the actual consultation process itself. Okay, so if we can do this as a family, and if the parents can demonstrate and teach the children how to do this, then it will allow our children to experience the wisdom and the effectiveness of true consultation. And in future, they can bring that into all their aspects of life in their future. I think people always appreciate, even though you might consult, we bring this form of consultation into our workplace. And even if people continue down the track that they have, which is to have hidden agendas and to try and force their opinion on others, eventually people see when you have one or two people in a consultative group that acts with purity of motive, with truthfulness, with detachment from their own opinions, with courtesy and respect for others, eventually that rubs off on the rest of the people in the room. So if we can teach our children, they will influence others when they grow up. Session 3, when we talk, in session 3, we discuss role models. We talk about how we keep our children safe, and we talk about the power of storytelling. So we discussed the different roles of parents. So parents wear different hats at different times. Sometimes the parent is an educator. So he needs to show his children, how to behave. And then at other times he has a guider's hat on, or he has a mentor's hat on, or a counselor's hat on. But in all of these cases, we use the language of the virtues to talk to children. Then the next thing is developing an awareness of the importance of safety. I think we probably know what that means. And then another very important thing that we talk about is the role of hardship, because often parents, and particularly today, I know in my own watching my children parent their children, I know that most of the time they're trying to limit any form of hardship that their children have. Yes. So But the thing with hardship is that without hardship, you don't develop things like determination. You don't get to learn about perseverance. You don't get to learn about patience. All these qualities can really only be polished in the face of challenges and hardships. So we're not asking parents to make their children undergo hardship. We're just trying to prevent them from experiencing the normal types of hardship. Being able to say no to your child when they consistently ask for a toy every time you go to a shop, that is a small degree of hardship, but to the child, that is a big degree of hardship. So, or learning to tie your own shoelaces, which these days I guess they don't, but to put on your own shoes, to pack your own lunch, to be able to do those things that in the previous days it was expected that children would do, but these days I think a lot of those things we're preventing our children from experiencing. Something as simple as forgetting to take your lunch to school. So mum has packed your lunch, but you forget to take your lunch. And then you ring up and say, Mum, I forgot my lunch. Can you please bring it? Well, I think the role of hardship in this case would be the mother to say, look, dear, the lunches were put on the kitchen bench. You were supposed to put it in your lunch. Perhaps if you miss out on your lunch today, you'll remember it tomorrow. That is a tiny hardship, but that is one of those hardships that are a challenge that we would like them to learn. So they're not big things that we're talking about. It's just overcoming small things. Also, hardship encourages children to develop their strength of willpower. Willpower and effort. So then the other thing we cover is storytelling, because stories, whether it's family stories to situate children in understanding their history and where they came from and maybe why they've got certain tendencies in their character that are very strong. It might be stories, grandfather was a very determined person and, in his life, this is what he did and this is what he achieved. Or it could be a virtue that is a little weaker but again, it just helps children situate themselves in their family. Then there are just ordinary stories, Aesop's fables, stories that have virtues in them, like the story about a hare and a tortoise running the race. Those all have virtues that are hidden in them. So I think when we read certain stories to children, we can help them pick up the virtues in them. Then in session 4, we are now talking about the course is about parenting children, but in order to do a sort of a good job at parenting your child, you also need to ensure that you care for yourself and you develop your own spiritual qualities. So session 4 is about nurturing the light of the spirit in the parent, and then also how then we can help our children to develop their spirituality. So this thing about understanding the nature of children, it's what we talked about at the very start about the dual nature, about the fact that they have a spiritual nature that, aside from drawing out these beautiful qualities that they have, these virtues, we also need to nurture them. So we nurture them and we nurture ourselves by, spending time in nature, by meditating, spending quiet time alone with ourselves, by praying, and that can be however it is that people think about prayer or think about God or think about a higher self or creator of the universe, or however they want to think about that. And also journaling. So these are more adult ways of doing things. But then with children, we can start doing simple meditations in the evening with them. We take them on walks to admire the beauty of nature, and looking at the night sky with them. a very simple thing like just plucking a leaf and looking at the wonder of the leaf, looking at how the stems and the little, just the everything about the structure or architecture of the leaf is actually mirrored in the architecture of the flow of rivers, and is mirrored in our blood vessels, just the architecture. It's just the wonder of the natural world that we can share with children. It's about spending time with them, maybe even looking at an ant walking and building tunnels, all those very simple things. It's to inspire them to connect with nature. And particularly in these days, when immediately all they want to do is pick up a phone and scroll and play an app or watch TV. It's getting them out of that and into the natural world, getting them to spend time alone, playing, just, using their creativity in some way that isn't directed by technology. So that's about connecting with us. And also, obviously, teaching them about prayer. Meditation at night is very simple. It's, and also simple things like, think about one thing that happened today that you're grateful for. Think about one thing that you wish you'd done differently. Simple things that when they're lying in bed and you're tucking them in after the story, you can do these very simple things with them. And it's just making them think about their day and reconnecting with themselves. Okay, and then finally, on our fifth session, we talk about the importance of empathic listening. And so last week it would have been called spiritual companioning. But we're calling it empathic listening and the merging of spirits, guiding our children to find their own solutions. So we go through things like, how do we listen with empathy, and what does that actually mean? Then when we're trying to help our children to find their own solutions to problems, because everybody encounters problems. Children have problems at school where, there are relationship problems at school where their friends one day love them and then the next day nobody wants to talk to them. Those sorts of things. We try to help children to find their own solutions rather than us as an adult jumping in and saying, I'm going to go to school and I'm going to sort it all out for you. Or, don't worry, Johnny's just having a bad day, he'll get over it. We don't want to teach them that, because that's not a way to handle either difficult relationships in life or situations that come up in future. So what we want to do as a parent is to give them tools so that when they get to 18, they've got something in their toolbox as to how to deal with problems. So we talk about strategies like listening with empathy, and then we acknowledge their feelings. We say, I can see that you're sad, because that will validate their experience. And also, when you acknowledge someone's feelings rather than saying, don't worry, you shouldn't feel like that, that is very disrespectful, and it doesn't do anything for their emotional or spiritual health. Whereas if we acknowledge their feelings by saying, I can see that you're sad, or I can see that you're angry, or I can see that you're upset, all those things is just an acknowledgement. We see you. And then we can ask open-ended questions like what and how. Again, last week, Yvette said this the same. We don't use why and who because they're analytical, whereas we really just want to ask them about, objective things. And then we gently try to guide them to clarity using always being respectful. And then at the end of that, we always need to honor them for something, because in a situation, they will have come up with their own solution, hopefully. And then we honor them for whatever it was that got them to that point. So I honor you for your creativity in coming up with a solution. Is one way of, depending on the situation, whatever it is. But anyway, so that is a process. I'm racing through it, but I'm just trying to give you a flavor of the things that we cover in the course. It's vast, and it sort of covers about 15 hours worth of coursework that I'm just racing through now. And then just to let you know, we're currently updating the course. We're also going to do a little bit more on feelings and emotions. We're going to do a lot more on service, because at the moment we don't do very much about that. We're going to talk a bit about family culture and how important the family unit is, and the culture of the family, and everything that we learn in a family is because society is just made up of lots of family units. And whatever we learn as a child within a family, the prejudices that we pick up, or the positive ways of looking at other people, all those things are what we carry out into the society around us at large. And so the family ground is the most important place, which is why I think spiritual parenting is so important, because whatever our children grow up to be, that is what is going to shape the society at large for their generation. So the more families that raise children that are strong, have an independent outlook, are capable of looking and judging situations independently without being led astray by fake news or whatever else technology will bombard them with. The sense of self-worth that they have, so that they can't be buffeted by people saying, well, you're useless unless you do this. They can't be manipulated as easily. They have bright, shining characters, where everybody would love to be around them because they're honest, they're truthful, they're caring, they're kind, they're generous, they're wise. Those are the sorts of people we need in society. The only way we're going to have a society with those people is if parents bring up their children to be those beautiful people who will then form the society of tomorrow. Okay, and then last slide is just to remember for parents that love and encouragement and guidance are more effective than withdrawal and punishment. And that we should only do for children what they cannot do, and we don't do for children what they can do. So if they can tie their own shoelaces, let them tie their own shoelaces. If they can make their own bed, let them make their own bed. We're not doing them any favors by not allowing them to grow up and be independent. Remember that challenges help develop character and genuine self-esteem, self-worth and genuine self-esteem. And always do as you say, because children learn more from watching and imitating you than they do from listening to what you say. No good talking about truthfulness and honesty and then saying to your child, please tell that person I'm not in, when someone knocks at the door looking for them. Because you might have talked about honesty, but what you're doing is dishonest and being untruthful. And then lastly, remember that how you parent is your responsibility, but how your children turn out is mysterious and subject to many influences other than yours. So yes, just be kind to yourself. Try your best, but that's all anybody can ask of a parent. Okay. Sorry, it was very full on.
No, thank you, Veronica. I'm glad you gave us an overview of the whole lot and didn't miss anything. It was brilliant, and I think Young and I are in the same boat as you. Where for us, it's a spiritual grandparenting course, but where do you get it? Where's the course?
Sorry.
Aha.
What do you say?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, right. My screen did some very funny things. Well, we do it in person. We have courses running, and we are now training facilitators so that in each area there will be facilitators so they can do their own, because it's just growing now. And also we do it on Zoom.
Oh, thank you for that. So theoretically, someone in a group in Sydney could.
Oh, yes, definitely. We've got facilitators. What really I love is to say that Nuran and myself, some years ago, we did this parenting with Iran. We had people from there, and that's so heartwarming that they are running it, in their own way. And we've got one in UK that's running beautifully there. So yes, we're trying to sort of develop it so it goes all over the place.
Excellent. I think it's wonderful. All right, we have time for a few questions or comments. Basanta?
Thank you, Veronica. It's a very good presentation, but I have a question because I'm struggling with the grandchildren. So I just want to know if you ask them not to do something and they repeatedly do, all this encouragement and virtues, where do they come? How do we apply that? When when you tell them not to do something that's not good and they go on doing it over and over again, how do you stop them?
Okay, so shall I jump in, Farid?
Yes, please do.
Okay, so I guess the thing is the first time they've done it, and you said please don't do this, and if they do it again, you say okay, so you've done this again. The consequence of you doing it will be, and then you have to come up obviously with a consequence. But the thing with the consequences is that you try to make it educative. So, and you try not to make it a punishment. So it depends on what it is that they've done. The other thing is sometimes the things that they do, parents will allow their children to do something in their house, which often grandparents, like I'll just give an example of my grandchildren. My grandchildren are allowed to walk around the house and eat wherever they want to. In our house, there is none of that. So we have a special, like they sit at the table or they sit at a special chair quite close to the kitchen, a couch. And those are the only two places that they may eat or drink. So they say, oh, but I can do this at home. And I said, well, that's mummy's rules. And then these are, granny's rules. And these are granny's rules. And if you don't sit down, I won't give you your drink. Or if you get up and walk away, then I'll take your drink away. If you were going to get a biscuit, you don't get the biscuit because you're not sitting at the chair. So I think it depends on what the situation is. But basically, you try to come up with a consequence that will impinge upon the child. But also, they'll have to know why it is that you don't want them to do whatever it is that you don't want them to do. So, yeah. But sometimes the other thing is, if it's something that they want, maybe you can give them two choices. It just depends on what the situation is. Because sometimes somebody will say, well, I don't want to go to bed now. For example, a small child say, I don't want to go to bed. And you can say, well, I'm sorry, it's non-negotiable. It's 7 o'clock. You know that this is bedtime. So you can have a choice. Daddy can read your book or mummy can read your book. Or you can have this book or you can have that book, depending on the situation. So sometimes once you give them a choice, they think, okay, it's not I lose, you win, because I'm going to win because I get a choice anyway. And it's a kind of a bit of a mental trick, I think, that we're playing with them. Because if it's a straight out, you do this and then you say no, they want to do something and you say no. If you get your way, then they feel like they've lost, so it becomes a win-lose. The object is to try and make it so that it's nobody feels like they've lost, particularly the child.
Can I just add something there, please?
Please.
So what Veronica said, that is as the children grow up and they're a bit bigger. Now, if they're very little, then look, whatever behavior we call them to, that is the behavior that will follow. So if you call them to don't run, that is the behavior they will run. First of all, they don't know, well, if I don't run, what do I do? Do I hop or skip? So they just carry on, and it feels like, they're not listening to us. But we need to find what they can do and you want them to do rather than what you don't want them to do. And a lovely example that we always give is that if I tell you now that I don't want you to think of a pink elephant, that's all you're thinking. The image comes to you is a pink elephant. But if you want to say to them, if you say to them the opposite, I want you to do, then that will be the behavior that will follow. So the example I gave, like running, or eating properly at the table or anything like that, it is not don't do that and don't do that and don't do that. Tell them what they should do, and that will be the behavior that will follow. And of course, if they don't carry on with it, then you go on with what Veronica has said and just carry on in that way. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
That's fine.
Did you have a question still?
First, I would like to thank
Yeah.
hello.
Yes, that's fine.
Hello. Thank you for this. Thank you for this beautiful and very interesting topic he told. First of all, I was not here. I didn't attend the last week. So may I get the last week's schedule and today's in written form? Can I present my email? Is it clear?
You want to give us your
Hello?
email so we can send you last week's presentation and today's, is that right?
Or we can put it on the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, because okay. Because the internet is very bad in my side. I couldn't properly hear, but it was very, very interesting.
We'll get the links to you, just
So
fine.
shall I give you mine?
Yes, please.
Yeah, my email.
Yes.
Where can I write it? Even this has a very problematic
In the chat.
thing. Shall I dictate you?
Yeah, okay, I'll write it down.
Okay. STEVA H 1844 at yahoo@gmail.com. Shall I repeat?
STEVAH.1844.
Yeah, at gmail.com.
Oh, so not Yahoo, at gmail.com.
Gmail, yes.
All right, I'll send you an email, just fine.
Yeah, both of them, this session and last week, because I am very, very interested in educating children, and this is very, very helpful for me in particular. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. Yun.
Oh, thank you. I should say there are a few points in here. I found your lecture is very useful, but there's some thing that we need to modify. First of all, I just say the feeling, I mean like impression that you talk about privileged kid, privileged family, and you don't talk about children in a special classroom, because one of the virtual things that you mentioned is got to be a mind, intellectual, and free will. And we just make assumption that kids come from the family in your lecture, that both parents need to have both jobs, like they're not unemployed, because here we use the word the children feel worthless. Worthless, why they feel worthless? When if they see, let's say for unfortunately, they see their mom doesn't have a job, dad doesn't have a job, there's nothing on the table to eat. And we talk about the intellect here. And that's and the other notion is consultation. A lot of consultation happen behind the door, not in front of the kids, just like mom and dad want to have a family picnic. And then they pretend to call the children and said, okay, consultation, right? Just give them a run. But then the kid will say, I want to have a picnic location near the sea or the river. Obviously, mom and dad will already make decision that not to be close to the water. But then they won't tell the kids. And then the kids will say, waste of time, consultation. And a lot of decision, even when you go to the workplace, a lot of decision make behind the door. They done the decision first, and then they come out, they talk to the staff. They said, okay, now time for consultation. It's all waste of time, right? So have you ever done a statistic? How many kids in your circle left home at 16 years of age? Just because they just don't want to go through all these things. Because they think, if my parents never had to go through all these things, so why now they have to go? Because a lot of new law now come in, talk about the abuse of children. Take the 16 or 15 or 11 years old, run around to the nature. They will have detective follow us. They have inspection, and the kid might just, go backward and say, oh, they abused me. Just say, for example. I mean, I'm not make a, like a caution for people, because we are all in the education area and training. So we have to be watching out, like you say, look after yourself. Okay, even we have pure kindness and everything, pure heart. But people outside will say, okay, keep away from the kids. Because we don't really know who abused who. Kid abused us or we abuse them. Who knows? That will be a long time investigation. So that's just like a legal area out of it. And a lot of kids, when you have contradiction here, consultation, and then we have another notion of non-negotiable, and we give the kids a choice. So actually two notions are contradictory. Whether your consultation or you have a choice. Or, all that is complex. I mean, human being, and especially children under 18, they don't really know, think, like in advance. So that is a natural development.
Thank you, Young. Can we hand it back to Veronica now before the session closes?
Okay.
Well, I'm just talking about, like some limitation, and people should be aware.
Yes, definitely. Thank you. So in terms of the consultation thing, I think that's the whole point of consultation, is we're trying to make sure, which is why it said well-conducted consultation, we're trying to make sure that we're teaching children that when we consult, we do not have any hidden motives, that nothing has been decided. So actually the family picnic is one of those things that we recommend that people talk about as an easy way to learn to consult. So parents always, because you are the parent, you will always be the authority. So at the end of the day, the decision is always the parents, but the parents want to hear from other people. It's just like, when you have a group in real life as well, everybody puts their case forward, but the decision, not everybody can have their decision be the one that's accepted. The object is to try and teach children that when we have a family consultation, everybody gets a say, and everybody, hopefully it's a majority wins, not the majority wins, but it's it's the if it's not unanimous, then it's the majority that gets their way, unless of course say you have 5 kids and you've got 2 parents, and the 5 kids decide they want to do something that's dangerous. So at the end of the day, the parents will say, no, this is not an option because it's dangerous. So parents always have the authority to say no. But at least children get an ability to put forward their wishes. And most parents, if it's not a matter of safety or, ridiculous extreme costs, like we want to do something that's going to cost, hundreds of dollars, and the family cannot afford that, then other than that, I think parents will try to make it so that whatever it is, the outcome is suitable. It's also in terms of boundary settings, like when you're a teenager, setting a rule of what time should be the curfew. So if the child says, look, I want to come home at 12 o'clock and they're 15 years old, obviously the parent is going to say, well, that's an unrealistic expectation. I think, maybe at 15, 9:30, 10 o'clock is a reasonable time but so that's what that consultation is it's about. It's teaching people to come to the table with something, with something that's realistic, and with a kind of, with a pure, with no hidden agenda, and not like, as you said, hopefully there's no point, as you said, calling a meeting, a family meeting, if you've already decided in advance, because in that sense, the parents have started off on the wrong foot. They will totally destroy any feeling of consultation. So that's definitely not what we're talking about in consultation. And what was the other one? Oh, the non-negotiables. So there are some ground rules which are non-negotiable. Like if say you're I don't know what's non-negotiable. Think of a non-negotiable. Okay, a non-negotiable might be something like, a ground rule is that we will always speak respectfully to every other member of the family. That's like a ground rule of the house. You will never swear and never use coarse language in this house. And if you do, there will be consequences. That is a non-negotiable because we don't want disrespect creeping into relationships within the family. So I think those non-negotiables tend to be in matters that are very serious. They're not really matters about like bedtimes and things like that. They're not, I mean, they're kind of flexible with age. However, you can't, if a child says, I want to go to bed at 9 o'clock, and they normally have a bedtime of 7 and they're only 6 years old, well, that's a non-negotiable. I'm not going to say you can go to bed at 9 o'clock. I mean, there might be a variation, obviously, if you're going, to your grandfather's birthday or something, that's different. But as a general rule, we go to bed at 7 because you're 6 years old. So those are the sorts of things that are negotiable and non-negotiable. Sorry. But
I think the story about the picnic arrangement, that was the true story. And mom and dad, they were very like they were doctors. So they know about safety. And that's why they don't want the kid to have a picnic near the river or the water. Right? But I think the way they educate their kids is not right. Because
Yes.
they just give a kid a run around for
Yes.
pretending they do consultation,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's not good.
But I guess in that case, when the child suggests, let's go and have a picnic by a river, and you've got toddlers or something, then you can say, that's a great suggestion, maybe for when, Jack, who's now, 2 years old, he can swim, when it's not really appropriate because we will be too stressed. It would not be any fun for us as parents. if we are worrying about whether, somebody's going to fall in the river and drown. But I think you can explain that, and all that can come out in consultation, and children are, they do understand. So, but yes, it is important for the parents to be upfront and honest about everything. Yeah.
Thank you, Young, for the question. And Joseph, please.
Yes, greetings to everyone again.
Hello.
Yes, Joseph.
Yeah. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, once again, I would like to say hi, and this is Joseph from Liberia, West Africa. Yes, I attended this meeting this gone week, but then I didn't really understand certain thing. That is the virtual. And then I began to wonder, what is it about when we talk about virtual project, and and people have been talking about it a long time on the Zoom meeting. So I was very much curious as well to have joined this meeting, and to also interact with friends as well, so to educate me about this particular project, because from the way I'm hearing it, is very much beautiful as well. It's very, very much encouraging project from my end. But to be specifically, I would like for you people to really give me the highlight, the information about it.
The Virtues Project?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Is it about the Virtues Project itself?
Yes, the factory project, because in Liberia, I don't even think that this project has come to Liberia.
Colin would
We
link
can bring it easily.
Yeah.
So
If we have, yes, we can do it online easily. Could I just tell you, could I just say something about virtues? Virtues, Veronica said earlier on about, well, I don't remember that actually, but I just wrote it down. But virtue actually means power, strength. It comes from a Latin root, virtus, and it means power, strength. So oh yes, while she was saying, when you tell them something and use the virtues, it's okay to say, oh, that was good, thank you for setting the table. But if you use the virtue, that word is actually, I like to say, a magic word. It actually means something. Oh, well done, that's good, doesn't mean anything. But if they say that was very thoughtful, the way you laid the table, then thoughtful is that virtue, and that is what goes into the brain, and it just helps them to learn. So it's about virtue being specific words. Not every word that we use is a virtue, but this is specific word that will help them to understand what helpful is. So
yes.
So that is really why we use it instead of just using normal words.
You can get
yes. So I want to know as well, is this project, because some of us, we are self-supporters from Liberia, we fighting so hard, and West Africa here is not easy. Okay. Yeah, so I wanted to know also if there could be another means, to help the young people, or maybe something like that, because so here is not something just easy, being a student as well, being a university student. Okay, looking at my status right now, I'm a university student, and I need some certain thing, in time, but I want to know if there could be any help for people like us now.
Joseph, I think you're on our Interfaith WhatsApp chat. I can put a link to obviously tonight's talk and also last week's. And at the end of last week's presentation, I remember the presenter provided a link
Thank you.
to the Virtues Project page. So
Okay.
you can find it there.
Okay. Okay. No problem.
Thank you, Joseph.
Have you
Thank
got
you.
my email right, Mr. Colin?
Yes, Tesfa, your turn.
Mr. Colin, have you got my email right?
Yes, I sent you an email. Let me just see
Okay.
if you replied.
So you said,
Yeah, I sent you one about 10, 15 minutes ago.
but I couldn't see it.
Perhaps
Shall I dictate it?
I can organize something for
You know,
Joseph.
the internet is breaking. I can't hear the words. It's very, very breaking up.
Okay, I'll get you the information, the links. I'll try the email again.
You got my email right? ST. Yeah. Okay. Try.
Yeah, Steve.
STE.
VAH.
Eva H.
Yep.
Yes. H. 1844 @gmail.com.
Yeah, is that STEVAH dot
All the letters,
1844?
they are very important for me.
All right, I'm going to try it without the dot as well. All right, thank you, Tesfa. All right, look, I think